Hi everyone. We are today going to talk a little bit about how your university experience has been while the pandemic has been going on, as well as how your first year has been at university. So can you just please tell me your names and introduce yourself, what course you're on, and maybe what your favourite thing about the past year has been? Let's start on a positive. So Libby, do you want to go first?
Hi, I'm Libby. I'm a first year and I do English literature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bethan?
Hi, I'm Bethan. I'm also first year and I study marine biology. Favourite thing about the past year is probably coming to uni and meeting the new people, even though we can't like go out. The people that I have had the opportunity to meet have all been very nice.
Yeah. And Mavis?
Hi, I'm Mavis. I'm a first year biomedical scientist student, and I would agree with Bethan. Like, I was able to go to a freshers fair where I met a few of my course mates that I still talk to online.
That's great. We'll introduce ourselves as well. So I'm Emma. I'm one of the outreach coordinators. We work with lots of different people, all ages really now, but we do focus on year 9 to 13 at the moment, working across 55 schools in our general region across 4 local authorities. So we work with Hull, North Links, North East Links and East Riding.
Yeah, hi, my name's Craig. I'm on the same programme as Emma. It's national programme, but we're working across the 4 authorities locally around the Humber. My background is actually engineering, aircraft engineering, and I've also worked for BMW and Jaguar on the engine side. So yeah, I'm in education in the last 12 years now, sort of fallen into the role, shall we say. So yeah, working in schools now, inspiring students towards higher education and apprenticeships.
Yeah, so today is just really to capture how we are feeling about university and what advice we would give to our younger selves. This is predominantly going up on our website and with National Careers Week, just to kind of show the students in our area, but also on a national scale, how we are feeling about the transition to online learning, how the access to interventions leading up to applying to university occurred in your different regions, because I know you're all from different locations, and just how your experiences may differ from one another to show students or prospective students what going to university is like right now. So let's start off with an easy one. How was your transition from college to university? Did you find it tricky? Or did you find it quite easy? Who would like to start?
I'll go.
Yeah.
I thought it was all right because when we got the grades quite like not early, but like at the same time when you got your grades, you kind of knew then like you were going there and you were doing that. And I felt that was like it helped a lot knowing that I was doing what I like wanted to do, knowing where I was going. And then like the actual transition I thought was quite simple because the uni was sending out a lot of like pre stuff. So like you knew when you could move in, you knew what you could do, you knew what was open, what was not and all that. I think it that really helped. So I thought it was quite alright overall.
Personally, I found the transition easy because you had time to prepare. Like you knew in advance, like you was moving away, and like you knew what you was getting yourself into, kind of thing. And the university was really good at like events. Like they published a lot of information beforehand, so you like sort of had a rough idea of what you was getting up to, like when you got there.
Were you giving a timetable before you guys arrived of events that would happen? Say Freshers Week. Obviously, Freshers Week isn't as normal maybe as it would have been in previous years, but were you given event timetables and things?
Yeah.
It just kind of depends on you actually how much research you do. Because for me, I knew that I wanted to do biomedical science. So because I had accepted my offer. So I started going to the uni website and I found out that they have weekly Zoom calls during the summer. So actually during the summer, I met a few of my lecturers already and a few second and third years. So I already asked them like questions that I was like, how is uni? I'm afraid of this and that. So because of that, it was an easy transition.
What would you say you was most scared of? Obviously, you mentioned then you know, I was scared of this and that. What type of things was it that you was worried about before you came?
The workload, because it's uni. It's supposed to be like a higher level. You go from level 3 to 4. So, are you going to be able to relax it like you do during college, or is it going to be studying 24/7? So,
what did your lecturer say to you in response of that?
well, he just said it depends on the person, because some people need like 5 hours to go through a lecture, whereas another person needs 10 minutes and just understands everything after one go, which is actually true. So, yeah.
Yeah. Did either of Libby or Bethan, did either of you two reach out to anybody before you came, whether that be like flatmates that you maybe knew were going to be in your flat, or lecturers or anything like that before you came?
Yeah, we had a Facebook group chat of, we found, because there was loads, like there was a courtyard group chat and there was each block had a group chat, so you were able to find the people in your flat, and we spoke a bit on that chat before we came in.
Yeah. So what were your biggest fears, would you say, before you came? If you had any, you may not have had any.
I didn't really technically have any fears. It was just like learning new skills, like having to cook for yourself and do like basic things what normally got done for you while being at home.
Definitely.
No.
How are you finding that? Because obviously you've done how many months now? 5 months, 6 months maybe of independent living. So how are you finding that?
I'm finding it fine. Like over time it gets easier, so you just like know what to do. But at first it was like just learning new things, like washing machines and stuff.
Yeah. Did you have any disasters, any of you, when you moved in?
I don't think.
No. The same, like for me, the first time I did my washing when I moved out at university, I turned everything pink. So it's just like, if any of you had any actual disasters when you came, or if it was, you know, you were a bit more precautious maybe than I was.
To be fair, I did put my jeans in my whitewash, so all my whites are a bit blue.
Yeah. It happens to all of us. So yeah, I mean, general fears that we come across when we're doing our work with students are independent living, like you've mentioned, the workload, which you've already mentioned, but also a lot of students are worried about the financial aspect of university. Was that something that any of you were worried about before you came to university, or do you know, were you aware of how student finance worked?
It might be a bit different for me because I moved here from the Netherlands, and of course with Brexit going on, I knew that I'd have to start uni this year, or else I'd have to pay 17,000 plus instead of 9,000. So I did apply for student finance, but they said that I can only get tuition fee loan. So I actually booked accommodation at the university, but I had to cancel it because I didn't get maintenance loan.
Okay, yeah. So was that?
So it's kind of like you have to call them and ask so that you know for sure what you're going to do when uni starts, so that you have enough time to, if plan A doesn't work, you can make a plan B and C.
I think
Yeah.
the biggest barrier we come across, not just with the students, is with their parents or guardians as well, and that fear of debt. So you know, people of my era I've got a son similar age to you, so that fear of taking on that amount of debt to get a qualification is a concern. You know, when they're talking now about potentially 40 odd £1,000 as the average student debt coming out of university, you know, we equate that as parents to things like that's nearly a house, you know. So how did it feel from your side when you were applying for student finance? Was the fear there of I'm taking on 3 years worth of student debt, or was it almost, well, I need to do this to get to a level where potentially I can get a better job in the future? How did you feel about that? So Bethan, I know you've moved the furthest away, and obviously from down south, you know, you will probably find the cost of living, I guess, in Hull quite cheap, or yeah. So how did you find the process, or was that one of your choices because moving north was cheaper?
It wasn't a factor in it, I don't think, but it definitely, like, even the just living on like campus in the halls, there was a significant difference, because where I live is like a half an hour train to London, so it was very expensive to the ones that I was looking at. And I wouldn't say it was a factor, but it definitely helped in the situation that it was a lot cheaper. Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Libby?
My process with student finance was pretty good. Like, the money I've got is enough to live off, but it could be better. But my parents definitely was concerned with the debt and how much uni actually cost, where in my head it was just like something I had to do to get a good job later on, like to get good money as an adult. So to me, I didn't really think about the debt as much, but my parents definitely was quite concerned with the amount I was getting into debt with.
That's an interesting point you've got around, is the maintenance loan enough to live on? And that was sort of one of the questions we passed across, because it's important to some of the students that are going to be watching this. Obviously, they can get a loan for their accommodation almost, and their tuition fee, obviously, you never see that. That goes straight to the university and pays for your fee. So do you believe your maintenance loan is enough to live on its own? Or would you need part-time work, do you think?
For me personally, it definitely wasn't. My maintenance loan didn't even cover my accommodation. So if I take that away, I still had to make money for the accommodation and then stuff to live on. So I was having to save for, I think I was saving for about 2-3 years before I actually had enough to like be able to pay off the accommodation, and then I had to carry on to able to budget for like my weekly money. So it was a lot of work. I had to work for quite a while. I haven't got a part-time job here because I was able to do it during the lockdown. I wasn't at school, so I was literally just working every day until they all got closed.
Mavis, like yourself,
obviously Mavis doesn't have a maintenance loan, so
but
how do you
think that? I'm working during my studies because I found out that there is a way to get maintenance loan even if you're not from the UK. So I class now as an EEA worker, so I'll still be able to get maintenance loan like a home student. And of course, I've called this time, make sure that I know roughly how much I'm getting. So then, I've started to look at cheaper options because I know that I'm not going to uni accommodation, so it's not all bills included. So I have to take that into account, this is the weekly price, but I still need to take food into it, transport, and also the bills of electricity and gas.
Yeah. So obviously, it's worth noting that Libby and Bethan, you've both moved into halls, where Mavis, you're sourcing private accommodation. So if we just start with halls, how is living on campus? Is it everything that you hoped it would be, or is it noisy? Is it quiet? Those types of things. How are you finding it?
So I like living on campus, and I would live on it again next year. But it's pretty quiet. There is the odd night where it's quite loud, but I think that's quite expected with being on campus. But overall, I'm quite happy with living on campus. I think it's good because you're near the library and like all the facilities, so you're not far away from everything.
Yeah. How about you, Bethan?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I do really enjoy because you're kind of in the community, like you're able to meet like people and stuff. Obviously, before the whole lockdown, like in that space where it was more acceptable, like you were able to see people, meet people, and I really enjoy it.
I think the important thing is, I mean, obviously, I'm guessing you're all paying the standard 9,250 a year for your course. Is that right? Yeah. So forget COVID for the moment that unfortunately came around, just over a year ago now. Do you think university is expensive anyway, pre-COVID, and obviously you're getting a different learning experience at the moment? If you were getting the full experience, do you believe the cost of university, which potentially is, nearly £28,000 for the 3 years, is that too expensive? Is the simple question, I guess.
Well, I think it depends on the course because, for example, I'm doing a science course, so we need microscopes, we need lots of material that's very expensive. So when you think about it like that, then it's kind of like, you're getting a degree and you're using this expensive equipment. So,
Bethan?
How about for you guys? Because obviously, Libby, you are English, aren't you?
Yeah, personally, I think it's quite expensive. I don't like have like microscopes or anything like that. I have to buy my own books on top of it, and that like becomes quite expensive when you have to buy like 20 books for one trimester. So I think personally for English students and for every student it is still quite expensive.
Yeah.
No, I agree with both, because I'm doing a science course as well, so I'm using that stuff, but I don't think it adds up to £9,000 a year, personally.
Yeah, it's always a difficult one, I think, because, you know, if you were doing medicine and you went into the med school top floor and you saw the facilities, you'd be like, wowed. And you're thinking, well, yeah, at the end of it, I'm going to be a doctor. But then I totally agree, depending on your career pathway, you may be thinking, well, actually, hang on, I've got to buy my own books. I'm just basically paying for a lecturer. So, yeah, I get totally both sides there. That, I mean, we've talked quite a bit whether uni should be on a tier system or the courses should be tiered, you know, for the level of the university or the level of the course. Yeah, I think that's probably it. But that's going to take a brave university to make that decision. So your learning experience now then, obviously you are pretty much all doing online learning, you know, although some of you are on campus or at home, but either way it's all online now and is likely to remain that way for, well, certainly until this next September coming. How do you feel now about still paying the £9,000 for this year?
It's okay.
Well,
it's
now
okay.
My opinion is different from before.
Yeah.
Because it just feels like of course pre-COVID everything was normal. You go to your lectures, you interact with everyone, but now it's like you're disconnected. So even if you send an email to your lecturer about, oh yeah, I watched this but I didn't understand it, can you explain it, you might get a reply a few days later and then you even forgot what you didn't understand. So then you have to go back. So it feels like you're doing extra work. So whilst they're obviously also busy with getting more information, more questions, so it's like, I don't know.
So communication's a bit poorer.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Libby? What do you think?
I agree. I just think maybe taking a bit of advantage of students, you know, for paying all this money for like an experience we're not getting. Like, it would be interesting to compare it to like what a real like university experience would be like without COVID, you know, just to see the difference, because I don't really know I just know there'd be more lessons. And I think without COVID, like your money, you can see where your money's going, like with the lessons, but now it's just online on Teams, so it's a bit, you're paying all this money for Teams. Well, for me, I think that just because I don't have no labs or any practical side, so I just straight away see it as I'm paying £9,000 for Teams.
Even we still have the practicals online. We don't go to uni to do them. They're all pre-recorded, so we're the same like you are.
In the first trimester for me, I was literally on campus for one like practical, which was about 2 hours, and they've pushed all the practicals that are meant to be in that trimester to this one, but obviously we can't do these ones either, so they've all been put online as well. So yeah, I agree with Libby, it's just, it doesn't really add up.
Yeah.
But potentially your workload is gonna, well, maybe not double, but let's say raised by 50% in year 2 or year 3 to catch up almost with your year 1 that actually is not really happening as you expected. So is that a worry that your workload is actually going to increase next year to almost catch up for this year? Should we call it lost? How do you feel about that? Because this work still has to be done. Obviously, you can't do part of a degree and still get the degree. So the modules still have to be completed, I guess. So how do you feel about the workload increasing in the future?
I would say, I wouldn't say I'm personally worried about it. Like you said, it has to be done. But like it is going to happen, really, isn't it? But it has to be done. So it's not something that I'm worried about, but I prefer it not to happen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and for us, a few people emailed the personal supervisors and the lecturers to ask if the practicals that we missed, if we can do them next year, beginning of the year. But they said, yeah, after COVID stops, they'll see if they can do sort of like catch-up practicals. But with how COVID is going, we don't even know if we'll be able to do that next year. So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you find that it causes a lot of stress on you at the moment? The fact that everything's online, is there that support, like more of the pastoral support from lecturers and the university itself, or do you think it's not very stressful? What's your kind of opinion on that?
In my experience, I found my personal supervisor and lecturers really good. Like, they emailed me, like if I sent an email within that day, I normally got a response, so it was quite fast, which was lucky for me. But with this new trimester starting with different like lecturers, I'm not sure like if they're going to be that fast. But overall, my personal supervisor is really good, and he answers most questions you've got, or like what's going to happen with COVID, like with your uni experience. He like kind of makes it more a positive experience, like so you're not worrying as much about what will happen.
Yeah, that's good. Mavis and Bethan, do you have similar experiences, or do yours differ?
Yeah, I have a similar experience because the university also sends us kind of weekly, bi-weekly updates of what's going on campus, if you can use the library, if you can go here. So like everything's caught up. Like they keep us up to date with everything.
Yeah. How about you, Bethan?
Yeah, no, I agree. Like my personal supervisor has been really good, and like you can email the lecturers when you want, and they've also doing like kind of Q&A drop-in sessions, which is really good. So like you can just drop into this online session and ask the questions that you need, and then it's just easier than having to email and wait for an email back, which I think has been really helpful.
Yeah. So it's good to hear that there's at least a level of support there, for as much as, you know, the lectures may all be online, at least there is some support there for you. Have any of you accessed student support services while at the university? So whether that just be about, you know, that your swipe cards, or like finance support, bursary support and things like that?
Yeah, I have, about like swipe cards and stuff. I'd say like you don't get a response as fast as you normally would, like pre-COVID, but like the situation gets resolved some way. Like it just takes longer, but you just got to be patient with it, because obviously most like staff like that are working at home, so they're not on campus, so equally expect it to take a bit longer.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair summation, because you know, as ourselves, we're not working on the campus, so sometimes you want access to something there, but it's not there. But I think it's great that even when you were speaking there, Libby, the other two are nodding their heads, so I'm guessing it's pretty much across the piece that, you know, things are getting done. You know, it may take a little bit more time, but that's good. Just want to think about just to year 13 then, when you were applying for uni, and obviously at that point you probably found out your exams were not going to happen. Did you all apply for, maybe just talk us a little bit about your application process. Did you all apply for 5? Did you apply for 1? Was it the course that made you think of a certain uni, or was it the geography? Did you just fancy moving away a little bit, or being within an hour from home? So I'm just thinking now, what goes through a year 13's mind when they're applying for university, I guess. You know, what is the first thing you look for? Is it the course, or is it the uni, or do you look at league tables maybe for your course? Or yeah, just let us know a little bit about what went through your mind when you were in year 13.
Okay, when I was in year 13, you have 5 options. You can apply to up to 5 universities, and I definitely knew that I was going to use all my my options, because it's just a waste. Why not? So the courses, yeah, it depends on what I wanted to do, because I want to do medicine, but I knew that I could only apply to 2. So then I have 3 options left. So I looked for similar courses. So I applied for medicine with foundation year twice, for biomedical science, and then the other one was for clinical sciences. And when it came to choosing the university, I did look at like where it was on the map, if it's close, because if it's close, then of course your transport costs go down. And if it's far, then I'll have to move there and everything. So that also played a big role. And I did go to a few open days where I found out more about the courses, and I also check the societies because I always want to be involved with the university or with the school or university that I'm going to. So, yeah.
But maybe Libby next, because you've come about an hour. So
yeah, I applied for 5 universities, and I think the furthest one was about 2 hours away. My college was quite good with like the local universities, so we had quite a lot of information about them already. So it was just like going to open days, and like I feel like once you're in the open day, like in person, you know straight away if you can imagine yourself going to that university. So like instantly when I was at the university I'm at now, I instantly knew this was the one I wanted to go to. But I still put 5 options down just in case anything went wrong. But I was lucky to get an unconditional. So, and then for each university I applied for, I also got unconditional. So it was just then picking the one I definitely want to go to. So I had quite like an easier process, I would say. I didn't have much stress.
Just picking up on something you just said there, Libby, about going to an open day and feeling like you could see yourself there as a student. What would you say to students now that are currently sat at home that can't get to an open day? What would you say to them to use to be able to pick what university to go to?
I would say that most universities I know are doing like virtual open days. So I would say to go to as many of them as they can and just research about the universities like in depth, like what societies they do, like how your course is like taught and what modules like they do. So you like become quite confident in knowing like what you're getting yourself into, kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. And Bethan, how was your experience in applying?
So I also applied for the 5, and I knew what course I wanted to do, so it was the same course for all 5. And I had a look at like league tables and that, and so geographically it was very like separate. I had ones down on the south coast in Wales. I just went to basically ones on the coast, the ones that were good at the course that I'm doing. But like Libby said, I came to an open day here, and I just kind of knew straight away like I liked how it was at a campus university. I liked how the course was taught. I met the lecturers at open days, and I liked them. So I just kind of knew as soon as I visited that this was the one I wanted to go to.
I think that's a really important point, because I think that's same for colleges a little bit as well, isn't it? Sometimes you go to a college open day in year 11 maybe, or year 10, and you just get a feel for a place, and you can never equate that. You can't say to students you'll just know, but you do. You walk into a place, you just feel, and then as soon as you start talking to people. Can I just ask, have any family members or siblings, have they gone to university, or are you first in families?
I'm
the first in my
family.
It's okay.
For me, I'm first in the family.
Cool.
Yeah, I am as well.
Yeah.
Are you
Nervous?
Yeah, me too.
Okay, full generate, because I'm first in family as well, so that's great.
And me.
So what did your families think when you said you wanted to go to university? Was there doubt? You know, did they understand the process, or were you having to teach them the process as you was learning it as well?
I had to like teach them like the information I knew, so it was like me knowing it from college and then like telling them. But they were happy if I was to go to university, but they wasn't pushing me. It was more like my decision, like in what I wanted to do. Like my parents are not pushy parents, so it was more like if I want to go, and they understood why I wanted to go, they was happy for me to go. So when we was going on open days and that, then like my dad and my mum was looking at like how the finance works. So the open days were quite good because it taught them how the finance process works and like what they need to do to help it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I guess
How about you?
Yeah, sorry.
Go on, sorry. How about you, Bethan?
I feel like for me it was always just like it would have been school, sixth form, uni. It was always just going to be like that anyway. So my parents had always kind of known like what they were getting themselves into, but like when it got like closer to the time, more stuff was popping up, and they're like, oh, they didn't know about this. So I was having like going to sixth form, finding stuff out, having to go back and tell them, but they were always trying to keep up with it, just so they like it was kind of taking the stress off of me a bit, so they could deal with that stuff, and I would just have to kind of like make the decisions.
Yeah.
I think that's
For
really
me,
interesting working with the parents. Yeah, because like we said before, explaining to parents can be really difficult because the process is not a linear process, is it? So Mavis, you've come from outside the UK only 2 or 3 years ago, so you've been through a very different process. So you've probably had to explain to your parents more than once.
Yeah, I just because I was focusing on the education there, uni process there, but then I realized, oh, I'm moving to the UK, so now I have to know everything here. So it took me a bit longer, but we got there.
Did you all have support while you were at college or sixth form? Did you, see a careers advisor or talk to a tutor of some kind to help you make these decisions, or did you go it alone, pretty much?
My college had like a career section, and there was like a group of women who like helped you, and you made appointments, and they went over like student finance, the process of like UCAS, setting up a UCAS account. So from my experience, college was really helpful, because if it wasn't for my college, I wouldn't know where to start or like the deadlines. So my college like sort of pushed for university, so in assemblies and stuff, that's what they was talking about, so you had like a good idea before like you was applying like what to do.
Were you ever told any other options, or was it mainly funneled towards university? Did they ever cover, apprenticeships or degree apprenticeships or anything like that while you were at college or sixth form?
They spoke about apprenticeships, but it was more university based, like universities coming in to speak, like this is what to do to go to university. It was more like university like orientated, but like apprenticeships was mentioned.
Okay. What about you, Bethan? What was your experience with your college?
My sixth one was really good. Each week we had 2 sessions where like we kind of got split up. So university people would go and like sort out the UCAS, and then they had like the apprenticeship people, and then they would have another group who would like want to go straight into jobs. So it was very like split up, and they'd have like teachers who would like be at those sessions with us, like helping us through UCAS applications, like looking into like you would say, I want to do this course but don't know where to go, and they would go off and they would like give you a list saying this is good, this is good. They were really helpful with it, and it was like we had loads of different pathways that they were willing to help us with, so it was very helpful.
Good. How about you, Mavis?
Yeah, for my college, it was also a bit split up, but they knew that the majority wanted to go to university. So during tutorials, they mainly focused on university, but the people that wanted an apprenticeship would make an additional appointment with a tutor. And we also had a careers advisor, which really helped me a lot because I was new to everything. So she just started from the beginning and explained the whole process.
It sounds like you all had a really positive experience then, really, through that process, through the UCAS process. I suppose the other side of the fence we don't know, because here you all are at university. But did you all go to what we would term a sixth form college? So therefore, university was almost the majority of students would head for university. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, because obviously we find differences with the mixed colleges. So the ones that have the A levels and other courses, vocational or BTECs, and then obviously, like you say, like Bethan said, you have almost 2 different pathways. Then I guess. So, was there any point, or is there any point now, is probably that you're thinking you will not finish university? I think that's a really important question. Or is your goal still to get this 3 years done? COVID, no COVID, let's get done and dusted, and get the degrees. That's still at the forefront of your thinking. Yeah.
For me, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do any of you have long-term goals? So what you see yourself doing after university? Or is that a big question?
I know for a fact I want to go into marine conservation. So that's where I'm kind of like choosing my modules in that direction. So I know what I want to do, but just not too sure at the moment how I'm going to get there, basically.
Hopefully go somewhere sunny.
Yeah.
How about you, Libby?
I'm probably going to go into teaching, but I'd like to do more work experience, but obviously with COVID, like can't really do that much, so it's just trying to take up the opportunities you can, and then when I have like a rough idea, I can take it from there, but it's most likely just going to get a job after uni, like in a full-time job.
Yeah. And how about you, Mavis?
For me, I I'm hopefully going to do a master's, but I just don't know in what course yet. But I will definitely finish a biomedical science degree.
I think that's an important fact about the masters or the postgraduate study. So Libby, like you talked about being a teacher, obviously you'd have to do another year at university probably. I mean, there are other pathways. Bethan, would you think about a master's? Would that help you in your career path?
I have been looking, yeah, but at the moment it's not like my first choice. But if I find out it will help later on, then I definitely will.
Yeah, and I think maybe it's in your pathway, probably it would certainly help maybe, or going on to some kind of postgrad study, I guess.
Yeah, so I'm just hoping to find like work experience, like Libby said, so that when I do apply, it's a bit easier to get in.
I think there's a really important fact that came up earlier from Libby, but looking at the modules that you do, because I think the students listening into this won't understand that they can actually either choose modules from a list or go to a different university and do the same degree but do different modules. I think that's really important to know, because you know, Bethany, if she wants to go and do marine biology but work with, you know, certain animals, obviously you would go to potentially a different uni or choose different modules. That's really important. I know if the course I'm doing, it's exactly the same. So I think for the students listening in, understanding that they can actually, there is still some choice when you do your degree for those modules. Libby, what I'm not going to ask what modules you're doing, but when you choose them, what is at the forefront of your thinking when you're choosing the modules within your degree?
So for year one, I don't choose any modules. It's just compulsory. But from year two, you start to pick your module. So I don't really know the process that much. But I got like the modules for year one with an in-depth like description of each module. So before even coming to uni, I had a good idea like what the modules were going to be about. And in the summer, because obviously lockdown, I bought my reading list early, so I started reading the books over the summer. So I had quite a good idea when I got to uni of what to expect.
Okay, Bethan, you're nodding your head there. Similar?
Yeah. Yeah, I think most unis, if you look on the websites of the course you want to do, they do have quite a good like description of each module. Like they normally go through all 3 years as well. So I looked quite in depth into those because I knew kind of what I wanted to do, and I found this uni was it like lined up with what I wanted quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting, obviously, you are all first year students, so you know you'll all be taking compulsory modules this year, but you'll get the choice next year. I'll dip in because obviously when I was at university, I chose my modules, and they do normally just give you descriptions, and you know you can choose that way. And as your years go on, your choice of modules increase. So in my last year of human biology, they had nearly 20 modules to choose from, essentially, because we were all the way across bioscience. So the same modules were maybe offered to, you know, biology students or biomedical or biochemists. So you had a good mixture. Within your courses, do you find that it's the same? The students are on exactly the same course as you, or are any of them on slightly different variations?
I have about 3 or 4 courses on some of my calls. Yeah.
Yeah. So what
Yeah,
type
same
of
with me.
courses are on your course, Bethan, at the
So
moment?
I've got zoology, like environmental sciences. There was like the biology, just like things like around there.
So there's some crossover. How about you, Libby?
For me, some modules overlap with English and creative writing, film studies, and American studies. So on a few modules, there's different people on it. That's why.
Yeah. Do you have the same experience, Mavis?
Yeah, for me, first year is exactly the same as forensic science students. Just one module was different in first year. Of course, as we go along, we're going to have more uh, dissimilarities, but for now, mostly it's been biomedical science students, forensic science, and a few biology students.
Yeah. How do you find that mix? Do you prefer having a mix of courses? Because obviously you can see what other people are doing, or would you prefer to have the same people in the same room like all the time because then you get used to the people?
I
I
think it kind of depends of like with online learning because now you don't really like know who's from where. it's kind of like we just have a group chat on Facebook for mostly biomedical science students with a few forensic science students in the group chat. But I wouldn't know how it will be if it was in real life.
Yeah.
Bethan,
How
you
about
were
you,
going to
Beth?
speak there?
Yeah, I quite like it because when say, on like a lecture online, you've got the chat column, and you get like quite a few different perspectives of what we're talking about. So like marine biologists, we talk about one thing, but then the zoologists talk about another, and I think that's really interesting getting those different like kind of countering points.
Yeah, definitely. How about you, Libby? How do you find the mix of students?
I quite like it. My like when we're on Teams, it's not like hundreds of people. So for me, I can easily tell who's like on what course. So for me, I quite like it. Again, what Bethan said, like different perspectives on the same topic. So just gives you more ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I used to think one guy on my course was really quiet, and then it was about 3 months in, I realised he was in Saudi Arabia on Teams, and it was about 3 in the morning. No wonder he was quiet. He was tired out. I'm just going to flick back to the offers that you received when you obviously put your application in, and the unconditional and conditional offers, just so obviously the people listening can understand that. So obviously an unconditional offer means pretty much you accept that and you've got your place at that university you're in. Obviously a conditional offer generally waits on your grades. How did you feel about, or what were your experiences, personal experiences of did you get unconditional, did you have conditionals, and how did you feel about that decision making? So maybe Libby first.
So for the 5 universities I applied for, I got 5 unconditional offers. So I didn't have much stress. But I think what helped me to get 5 unconditional offers was I had quite a lot of work experience and my personal statement was quite like good. So I think that's what helped me to get the unconditional offers. But for some courses like medicine, you don't really get unconditional offers that much. So I think it just depends on what course you apply for.
And then what was the process then? So you had 5 unconditionals. How did you whittle that down? Because that's quite a nice position to be in.
The university I'm at now is the one I've always wanted to go to. So straight away it was, if I got a conditional or an unconditional, I was aiming to get into that one uni. So I didn't really think about the others as much.
Cool. Bethan?
Yeah, I got 3 unconditional out of the 4 offers I got, and I feel like Libby, this was a uni that I wanted to go to. So once I got that unconditional, I was obviously very excited, but I knew that either way I was going to go for this one. But some of the other unconditional I got were like, you get the conditional, but like if you do this, like if you put this as your first choice, then it will change from unconditional. And I feel like them ones I kind of just pushed aside straight away because I just wasn't a fan of that. But I just knew that I wanted to come to this one, so this was the one that I was always going to go for.
So that's interesting. So you almost feel like there was a little bit of the unis were using a bargaining tool, i.e. you put us first and we'll change our offer. And obviously we see that quite a bit. And it pulls on heartstrings, it pulls on all sorts, doesn't it? But what you've both said there, Libby and Bethan, is that actually your first choice was never going to change. If that came up and you were given that chance, that's where you were headed, yeah? So, and is that because you'd done your homework up front? So you knew exactly if that came up. Perfect. What about you, Mavis?
For
You
me, it
applied for
wasn't.
different courses, obviously. So
Yeah, for me, it wasn't that I had a specific place in mind. I had a specific course, which was medicine. So I was like, if either of the two accept me, I'll just go. But for what both didn't accept me, so they offered me an alternative course. So I changed one to biology, and I got an offer for that. And the other one, I changed it to, I think, something with immunology. But as I was waiting for their response, I got an unconditional offer from my university for biomedical science. And then I was like, you know what? This year is crazy. At least if I accept it, I know for sure I'm going. So I'm taking it. I'm not taking any chances. I want to go to uni and this is my ticket.
So you pretty much ranked on in your head what was course order, the best course to go on, pretty much. And if that best course, when you couldn't get medicine, I guess you ranked in your head the next ones below that you could get into, yeah.
Yeah, because for me it's kind of different. Like I didn't do amazing academically, so like Libby said, I also had a few I did a lot of work experience. I was always involved in different things, and my personal statement was also good. So the university I'm at now, they look at the personal statement as well, whereas some universities are more focused on the grades. So because of that, I kind of calculated like where do I have a higher chance of getting accepted, and that's where I applied.
That's
And that's where I
interesting. You
got.
mentioned, yeah,
Oh,
interesting. You mentioned some universities there are just interested on grades because
yeah.
we'll talk quickly about Russell Group universities, who are the so-called top 24 in the UK, most of them in England. But did that enter your head that you'd want to aim for a Russell Group, or was that not a factor in your
I
decision?
couldn't aim for a Russell Group because I moved here from the Netherlands. I only have one GCSE grade, and most universities that I called, they said, no, you can't apply because we want 5 GCSEs or more. So for me, it was like 80% of universities was gone.
Yeah.
So I didn't think about Russell Groups because at the end of the day, it's still the same paper. You still get your certificate. As long as I can go to university, do the course I like, it's fine.
Okay, Libby, I'm guessing that you did apply to some Russell Group universities. Would I be correct?
No.
No.
I was looking at them. I just didn't like the look of them, and I didn't seem interested in the modules. So instantly, I just thought there's no point applying to a Russell Group university to say I've applied for a Russell Group university. I wanted to pick 5 universities I was genuinely interested in. But with my grades, I probably would have got into a Russell Group, but I was just more happier at other universities.
Yeah, sorry, I was looking at the geography and knowing where you live. I thought there's some within that distance, so that's the only reason why I maybe thought. Now, Bethan, you're from the south of England, so there'd be a lot of Russell Groups not too far away. What about your process?
Like the fifth one that I didn't actually get enough for, that was Ross Group, but it was in Scotland, so on the opposite. But I'm kind of opposite to Libya. I just wanted to apply for one. I just wanted to. Well, it was just all kind of like a let's have a go. I didn't get in, obviously, but I just thought I didn't have a fifth one, so I just went for it. But I like the modules. If I got in, obviously, I would have been very happy. I like the modules, and it is a good university for the course I do.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like, might as well.
I think that's a really important point, is because actually you've just nailed it on the head there. It's a really good university for the course you want. You know, certain universities will say we're in the Russell Group. Other universities might be absolutely I mean, we see some really up and coming universities in the UK. I mean, we can mention them, Loughborough and Nottingham Trent, who are absolutely flying at the moment, but they're not Russell Group. But we see them coming from. I mean, me and Emma have seen this over the last 3 or 4 years. They're absolutely coming from nowhere because of their offer, you know, and the results they're getting in those courses. So I think it's a great fact for people listening in that actually, yeah, Russell Group, great, you know, and but that piece of paper is from Russell Group Uni, but actually, does that uni do the course or the modules that you actually are interested in? And that's a really important point. Emma, you went to. I think you need to be honest at this point about.
I'm staying quiet in the corner.
Yeah, I could see. Why did you go to Birmingham?
I went to the University of Birmingham because I wanted to be far enough away from home that my parents couldn't just drop in and be like, hey, and like spring a surprise. But I was also close enough to home if I needed to get home for whatever reason, for like family purposes. So, you know, it was about 2.5 hours, 3 hours on a train for me to go to Birmingham and back. But also, surprisingly enough, like it's very similar to what you all three of you have said in terms of they did a course that I really wanted. You know, for all the plant biologists out there, I apologize now, but I hate plants, right? And I didn't want to study plants. So I wanted to do human biology instead of pure biology, which just kind of narrowed down my choices of where I could go. Birmingham did that course. And it was very much like you guys. I went to an open day and I just had the feeling where when you're on the campus, you're like, yeah, this is for me straight away. Like I remember walking out the library and just seeing the campus and being like, yep, salt. And that was that. So, and I did go to open days that I didn't like, universities where I was like, I don't think this is for me. And I actually didn't apply to those. Does any of you guys have that experience where you went to an open day, you thought it wasn't what you wanted, and then you didn't apply?
Yeah, for me, the school organized it, the college. So we went to the open day there, and I'm not going to say where it is. And I did like the library and the campus, but when it came to accommodation, it was just all dark colors and everything. And I was like, if I'm going to be sat here every day, how am I going to motivate me myself if I'm here in a dark room?
Especially
So,
now with COVID and being at
yeah,
home all
so
the
I was
time.
like, I didn't like how the accommodation was. So I knew that if I applied there, I'd have to look into private accommodation, which would make the price go up. And then I was like, I'll just apply somewhere else.
And Bethan and Libby were both on campus, as you can tell by the furniture behind. But how do you feel? Value for money, I guess, because again, we've talked about it before, is an expense. The value for money of the accommodation, and also how does it work? If a student listening here, how do they pay it, and are there any other bills on top, for instance? Because they may see a figure on a website and go, "Oh, great, that's my cost per week." Is that actually the cost per week of living in those halls? How does that work? Libby.
So for me, I like living on campus, but I do think it is expensive for what it is. The process to like book the accommodation was really easy because the university just sent like emails and been like, from this date you can book, and it was like really simple. For paying the rent, you either can set up a direct debit or you can just pay it when it's due, and that's what I do, just pay it once when it's due. But that was my experience on it.
What made you choose the accommodation that you're in now? Because there are different choices, I presume, of room standard and buildings that you can be in. So what made you choose the one that you're in right now, Libby?
I just preferred it. I liked the look of the room. It was more like open, and like the kitchen facilities were a lot better. So that was just my main reason for going for it.
Are you in ensuite accommodation? Do you have your own bathroom?
Ensuite.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Was that a deal breaker for you?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know it is for a lot of students, so that's why I ask. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, sorry, Bethan. On top of your weekly rent, is there anything else to pay? Do students need to be thinking about what other weekly expenses, for instance, have they got on top of their accommodation or the room, pretty much?
No, not really. All you've got to really think about is like the food, but also washing. You've got to remember that there is like, what is it, about £7 washing, like weekly washing, if that's what you want to do. But for the room, I can't think of anything else, no.
And how much is food a week? What would you normally spend, if you don't mind saying, a week? Do you do like a weekly shop, or do you tend to share it with another student, or?
Yeah, we share it, with two of us share it, and comes about £20 a week, which isn't bad at all.
And do you have shared kitchen as well?
Yeah.
And how many students use that one kitchen?
8.
Okay. How do you find that? Can you get in there?
It's a really big space, and we all have our own cupboards. We hold like our own fridge, like half fridges. It's really organised.
So there's plenty of room.
Do you ever get people taking each other's foods or anything like that? We had a few instances at university when I was there. My sugar kept going down, so I replaced it with salt, and someone got a nasty shock. So, how's your experience been with your flatmates? Has it been easy?
Yeah, I don't think we've had any issues.
No. Did you guys take any kind of personality tests or anything like that before you went, when you signed up for university? I know that was a thing when I went, but that's back in the day now. It's like 7 years ago. So
I didn't.
No. See, some universities will get you to take like a personality test, and they'll match you with similar people in your accommodation. But I don't really believe that works, because it definitely didn't work for me. So maybe just doing it, ad hoc is the best way to do it.
I'm going to come on to cash, because obviously I'm guessing you guys all went to university for, obviously, to upskill yourselves and get yourself a level 6 qualification. But there is a reason behind that. And is that reason to get you a better paid job, or is that reason that you need the degree to go in the career pathway? It could be both. So maybe Mavis first, because you're heading down hopefully the medical type route or the science type route.
Yeah.
What is your end goal? We've talked about potentially some other study, but what is your end goal? Is it all about getting a higher paid job or a better career? What is the end goal of going to university, in your opinion?
Well, for me, it's both. because I definitely know I want to work in the health sector. I just don't know what specifically. So, and the easiest way to get into the health sector is through education, because like you said, you can do other things. Like I could, instead of doing uni, I could get a job now and work my way up. But I feel like it's just better to get the knowledge and then jump into the work sector.
Okay. We'll go to Bethan next, the other scientist.
For the path that I'm going to go down, I know it's not like a high paid job, so I've just done it to get the qualifications to do what I want to do. It's not really about money for me.
Do you believe, obviously, you're in quite a niche sector, I guess? I mean, it's not something that, I mean, it's becoming more prevalent, but in that sector, would you need the degree realistically to go down the route?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would
And
say
Libby, you're in the creative, so.
For me, at the moment, I'm either going into like the law or education. So for whatever I need to do, I need a degree. So it was just something I had to do. But I also wanted the experience of going to university. So that's why I chose it. But as well, for money, I wanted like a better paid job.
So that's interesting, because obviously you're doing English, but
Yeah.
you're potentially seeing a pathway maybe to teaching or to law. And I think that's interesting for any students listening in, is that actually your degree doesn't need to be the job you'll actually end up in. That degree piece of paper is almost a passport to different careers, isn't it? I think that's really important. So I guess the question to you, Libby, is why English? Why did English, why not take law, for instance, if you were heading down that route?
I chose English because it was just something I was naturally good at, like I could do it. So I enjoyed it. So I thought I'd rather do a degree I enjoyed than forcing myself to like something I might not like at the end of 3 years. As well, because as I spoke to more people, you could do a lot with English, more than I thought you could do. Like I didn't know you could go into business with it or law. I just thought it was either teaching at first. But when coming to university, like there was like programs and there was like a careers lady and she came and told you like loads of possible like job opportunities you could get. So it like opened my mind to more different possibilities I could go into.
That's great, because I think that's interesting. We talk to students in schools, Emma and I, and they say, well, I'll never do maths or English ever again. Well, actually, you are going to use it at some point right through. And I think these degrees are what we call transferable. You know, they give you skills, don't they? It's not just about having English on your piece of paper. So can I ask, I'm going to go to Bethan first for this one, because you're a marine biologist, or you will be in a couple of years' time. What were your A-level choices? I'm interested in the pathway from doing GCSEs to a marine biology, and because these students, again, listening in, are going to be thinking, well, what would I take at A-level? You know, if I'm a year 11 watching this video and I want to be a marine biologist, what should I be aiming at A-level? What would I take?
I did biology, history, and sociology, which all three of them are completely different. But the fifth choice that I did, most of them wanted a biology A-level, but this one wanted biology and chemistry. So that's when I kind of messed up. I wish I did do 2 sciences, but I was at that time picking them. I was between a science and a history degree, so I kind of just thought I'd do both and see. But it was the only one it hindered me on was the Russell Group University. All the rest just wanted 1 science A-level.
So that's interesting. So basically, the Russell Group University didn't count sociology as a science.
No, that's social science, yeah.
Yeah, so they didn't count that, whereas some unis would. So that's quite interesting again, isn't it? So, okay, Mavis, your A-level choices, what did you take?
I had biology, chemistry, and maths, and I took that because obviously my main focus was to do medicine, and in the Netherlands where I moved from, those were like required courses, so I thought it was the same thing here. So I was like, okay, then I'll do then I'll be able to get into medicine if I do that.
Okay, yeah, I think well, over in the UK, generally, certainly 2 sciences at least. Yeah, obviously to get into medicine. So, yeah.
Yeah, the general rule for medicine is chemistry is essential, and then biology is desirable, or mathematics. So
Yeah.
it's a really safe bet to take biology, chemistry, maths, because
It's actually very surprising as well, because when I found out I can only apply to 2 universities for medicine, then I had to choose something else. And when I looked at the requirements, I was so surprised because some of them were just like, oh, you need a C or higher in biology. And they didn't even talk about the other courses. It was just biology. If you have that, it's fine. So I was like, oh, okay. I have biology, then I'll apply.
Yeah.
Libby, what were your A-level choices?
English literature, sociology, and art.
Okay, so a mix. So a bit like Bethan, you edged your bets maybe. I think we do talk to this to students a lot about if you don't know what your final degree or you've got different choices, is to do just a different A levels, do it across the piece. Whereas Mavis with medicine, like you say, your choices had to be almost made for you because that's the expectation. I think the best advice probably to any year 11s or above listening in is just to take firstly do what you enjoy, but also just take a range that can actually keep all doors open. And we certainly talk to year 13s a lot about that, don't we, Emma?
Yes, we do. I mean, just obviously I'm conscious of time. We've been recording for a while. So what I will just try and finish up on is if you could give some advice to your 16-year-old self, so your year 11 self, what would you say and why? So let's go with Bethan first.
I think I'll tell myself to actually revise because my plan was to join the army, but that went a bit south, so I didn't revise at all for my GCSEs. But the grades that I got were good, so if I actually revised, I think I could have done really well. But it's just like my GCSEs for me were like it just didn't matter anymore because I had what I wanted to do. But yeah, I just would have made sure I would actually do the work.
I think that's a really interesting point. I'm going to jump in there because I left school after my pretty much GCSE equivalent to join the Air Force, and therefore year 11 for me was, well, why do I need to revise so much? Because actually I've already got a job.
Yeah.
And I did okay, same as you, but I should have done so much better because I just went off revision because why would I need these brilliant GCSEs when I was going to have a long career traveling the world? So yeah, I can definitely simulate with that one.
How about you, Mavis? What would you advise to yourself at 16?
Try to keep up with homework and everything, because I find myself every morning I'd be on the school bus and then writing my homework for my first lesson.
That is standard year 11.
How about you, Libby?
My advice would be to ask for help if you don't know something, and don't be embarrassed if you've got something wrong. Like, it's better to know early on what was wrong and like how to improve for next time.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good point to make. Just feeling like if you feel like you can't keep up or you're making errors, just reaching out to those that can help you. That's what teachers are there for. That's what they're paid for, to help you. So, getting in touch with teachers directly, but even if it's a pastoral issue, if it's someone when you just need to talk to somebody, maybe the pandemic's getting you down and things like that. There are staff that are trained to do that within schools, to talk to. So I think it's a really important point. I know that I said that was going to be the last question, but for year 13s that are listening right now and maybe worried about going to university because of the pandemic and the current situation, and maybe contemplating, I don't know, a gap year, not that they can do a great deal in a gap year right now either. What would you advise to them? Would you say to still go to university, or would you, what would you say to them?
I would say, I would say to go to university because like life is still going on. Like, if you take a gap year, you can't do much. Like, I've got a friend who's doing a gap year, but like isn't doing a gap year. I'd just say to start the university process and just like, it's not bad. Like, being in university with a pandemic, it could be a lot worse, I would say.
Yeah. What about you, Bethan?
Yeah, no, I'd agree because like we don't know what's going to happen with this pandemic. You could say, oh, I'll wait till it's done, and that could be like years and years. So I think you might as well just do it now and just kind of get it over and done with, instead of just waiting and not knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah. And Mavis?
Yeah, I'm thinking the same because some people are saying, yeah, I might as well take a year out and then work and save for uni. But I'm like, why are you going to work? So you might as well just apply now, and then that year you don't waste a year and you can actually enjoy the year after COVID is over.
Hmm.
So because if you take a year out now, you won't really enjoy it.
I think it's a great point. I think the two reasons mainly we see for taking the gap is one is to travel, which is great, great experience, but at the moment travel is non-existent.
Yeah.
And the other reason would be to work and maybe do some saving like you did, Beth, and me, and do some saving. But again, work is really difficult at the moment, and actually companies are actually shrinking down or being
Yeah.
really wary about taking people on. And as you all are, first years, as you know now, as we've already talked about, first year is first year. Let's get through it and plow through, because actually your choices at uni start in the second year. That's when real uni starts, as we call it, because that's when you guys start opening up and your choice. So yeah, why not plow in there? And I know we are independent, but I'll be honest, I don't see a benefit at the moment in taking a gap. Because I don't see what you could do with it. I don't see how it could be a successful gap year, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
From my personal opinion, I've got friends who thought a gap year or going to university wouldn't be good with the pandemic, but because they haven't done it this year, they're struggling to get into universities for this year, because you've got the A-level people coming up plus the gap year, and then the people who have not gone because of the pandemic. And I know people from my hometown who are now struggling to get into universities, and that is even with 3 A stars and all the relevant work experience. My friend isn't now getting back into university again, so she should have gone this year, I think.
That's a really good point. We talked about the deferrals, and obviously you get the option to take your course but then defer for a year. But that deferral is just almost delaying the inevitable, because there are still X amount of thousands of students want to go to university next September who are then joining the deferrals, and potentially joining all the people who are mature learners who are thinking, I need a career change. So the market becomes flooded. And in the end, there are only so many seats that we can put bums on, literally. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Another reason to dive in now.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll end this. I'll wrap this up. So thank you to the three of you for joining us today. It's been really insightful to hear personal experiences, and especially how you found the transition from college to university, and the whole experience of which COVID is, and the issues it's caused, but also what positives have come out of it. So thank you for discussing with us.